My name is Allison Hobbs, and I am a professor in the history department, and I direct African and African American studies. And I am going to read Nikky Finney's acceptance speech that she gave in 2011 when she won the National Book Award for Poetry for her collection of poems called Head Off and Split. We begin with history, the slave codes of South Carolina, 1739. A fine of $100 and 6 months in prison will be imposed for anyone found teaching a slave to read or write, and death is the penalty for circulating any incendiary literature. The ones who longed to read and write but were forbidden, who lost hands and feet, were killed by laws written by men who believed they owned other men. Their words devoted to quelling freedom and insurgency. Imagination, all hope. What about the possibility of one day making a poem? The king's mouth and the queen's tongue arranged perfectly on the most beautiful paper, sealed with wax and palmetto tree sap, determined to control what can never be controlled, the will of the human heart to speak its own mind. Tonight, these forbidden ones move all around the room as they please. They sit at whatever table they want. They wear camel-colored field hats and tomato-red kerchiefs. They are bold in their Sunday go-to-meeting best. Their cotton Crocker sacks shirts are black washpot clean and irreverently not tucked in. Some have even come in white Victorian collars and bustiers. Some have just climbed out of the cold, wet Atlantic just to be here. We shiver together. If my name is ever called out, I promised my girl poet self, so too would I call out theirs. Parnisha Jones, Marianne Jankowski, and Northwestern University Press. This moment has everything to do with how seriously, how gorgeously you do what you do. A.J. Verdell, editor partner in this language life, you taught me that repetition is holy, courage is a daughter's name, and two is stronger than one. Papa, chief opponent of the death penalty in South Carolina for 50 years. 57 years married to the same Newberry girl. When I was a girl, you bought every encyclopedia, dictionary, and Black history tome that ever knocked on our Oakland Avenue door. Mama, dear mama, Newberry girl, 57 years married to the same Smithfield boy. You made Christmas, Thanksgiving, and birthdays out of foil, lace, cardboard, and paper mache, insisting beauty into our deeply segregated Southern days. Adrienne Rich, Yusef Komanyaka, Carl Phillips, and Bruce Smith, simply to be in your finalist company is to burn brightly. National Book Foundation and 2011 National Book Award judges for poetry. There were special and subversive high school English teachers who would read and announce the highly anticipated annual report from the National Book Foundation. The names of the winners stowed way down deep in some dusty corner of our tiny Southern newspaper. Dr. Gloria Wade Gales, great and best teacher, you asked me on a Friday, 4 o'clock, 1977. I was 19 and sitting on a Talladega College wall dreaming about the only life I ever wanted, that of a poet. Miss Finney, you said, do you really have time to sit there? Have you finished reading every book in the library? Dr. Katie Cannon, what I heard you say once still haunts every poem I make. Black people were the only people in the United States ever explicitly forbidden to become literate. I am now officially speechless. So I am really moved by this speech for so many reasons. One, as a historian, I love that Nikky Finney starts with history and grounds the whole speech in history and the history of literacy and the history of the impossibility or the laws that were passed to try to make literacy for Black people and for enslaved people impossible. And this beautiful way that she kind of traces how enslaved people and later freed people were able to learn to read and to become poets, and what a kind of just marvelous and exciting and beautiful turnabout that was, to be able to make literature and poetry after it being actually illegal to be literate. I also just love that her speech really reminds us of just how remarkable Harriet Jacobs' story is, or Phillis Wheatley's story is. And I also just love how generous she is with the ways that she thanks so many people and thanks all of the people who have played a role in her own development. And she really shares this award with so many people, which I think is just really beautiful and inspiring, and speaks to the way that the creative process and the humanities more broadly is really about collaboration and support and sharing ideas. And then I also just love the way she ends by talking about her parents and describing her mother and her mother's creativity in making holidays special, using the tools that she had and kind of ingeniously making holidays so special and so memorable. So it's a poem that strikes me as just it's a speech that really reads as a poem, but that strikes me as just encompassing so much, so succinctly, starting in the 1700s with the slave codes of South Carolina, and then coming all the way to 2011, when Nikky Finney, this gorgeous writer, is rendered speechless by winning the award and by the history, by recognizing her place in that history.